I found my lump on my own. It was last summer on August 10th. I was in bed, online shopping, and I reached across my body and I found my lump with the side of my arm. So it really shouldn't have happened. It wasn't intentional on my part. I was too young to be getting routine mammograms, but when I felt it, I knew that it was wrong. I knew it wasn't supposed to be there. So I called my doctor the next day, and I was actually really surprised at how quickly they wanted to get me in. And so I was like, okay, this might be a big deal. So they did the mammogram and ultrasound, and I knew when they did the ultrasound that it was cancer. I could tell. The tech kind of jumped back a little bit when she saw it, so I knew at that point. But they did the biopsy and all that stuff, and on August 18th is when I got my actual diagnosis. We did a bilateral mastectomy on August 28th, and then chemo started on September 18th. I was lucky, it was stage 1. I found it early, which was good. I was a little surprised that I had to do chemo. I thought that, hey, stage 1, no big deal, but no, I had to go through the full round of chemo, so I did about 20 weeks of chemotherapy, and I had my last chemo on January 29th of this year. We did first round of reconstruction at the end of February, and then we're going to do a revision in September. When I found out I had cancer, even though I expected to hear that, I was still in a little bit of shock. Of course I cried. I was at work, which was not the best place to probably be. I most dreaded telling my parents. I think that was the hardest part for me. Telling my friends, my husband, that was fine, but you don't want to see your child go through that, and so I knew my parents would be really upset. I told myself I was fine. My body was not. I ended up with a full body rash just from the stress and anxiety, and I thought I was going to be okay, and I am, but it was definitely a tough few days. It sounds so weird to say that cancer was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. It was horrible going through it, but for me, the journey meant a lot. I learned a lot about myself, spiritually. I learned a lot about others. I learned to be humble. I learned to accept help. Those were all hard things for me to do before. And so for me to be where I am now versus where I was just over a year ago, that journey, that valley for me was really important for me to go through. So, when I hit that year from my diagnosis, that was a big day. And I'm like, I would not change a thing at all. I wouldn't wish cancer on anyone, and everyone has their valleys that they go through, or they go through a storm, and for me it was cancer, and I needed to go through that at that point in my life. Cancer gives you perspective, of course, that you didn't have before. You view life a little bit differently. There were so many days when I was sick, and I was just not angry at having cancer, but I was just so jealous of other people being out and able to do things. And so this past Labor Day, I remember last year on Labor Day, I was so mad at all my friends who were out having fun, and I was in bed the whole time. And so this year, I'm like, I'm going to enjoy the heck out of this weekend. It's going to be awesome. And so really valuing that time. I've also learned to realize some things just don't matter. You can do anything to me now. Really probably going to just roll off my back because I had cancer. I beat that. So everything else really is not that big of a deal for the most part. For someone just diagnosed with breast cancer, I'm not going to tell them, it's okay, you've got this. I hated it when people told me that. Everyone has their own journey. And so I would ask them how they want to be supported. Somebody asked that of me right after I was diagnosed, and I really appreciated that. So I would, ask questions. How are you feeling? How do you want to be supported? Find out what works for them. I'm not going to give them all of my advice. I'm full of it. But I want to be able to meet that person where they are and do what works for them. Can Do Cancer really made a difference for me, most of all through the patient partner. It's nice having somebody who's been through it already. I have all these wonderful friends and colleagues, and they were great. They tried and they did wonderful things for me, but they didn't really understand. And so having that person who really understood what I was going through was very beneficial. Cancer can also be a very lonely place. When I was first diagnosed, everybody was on board and getting me meals and being supportive and sending me texts and cards and everything. But then, they kind of forget about you after a while. And that patient partner didn't forget. She was still checking in throughout the entire process. And so that really helped me to know I'm not alone. No, there's somebody who hasn't forgotten about me. So that was nice. Yeah, after my experience with my patient partner, I thought, hey, that'd be kind of cool to do. I really enjoyed my relationship with her. And so when I was asked to be a patient partner, it was not even a question in my mind. Of course, I'm happy to do it. And so I've had one patient so far, and I really enjoyed her. She's a great person. I could see us, being friends or, something like that. I enjoyed talking with her and just being that person to ask questions of and provide that level of support that I had.